Hello everyone, it's Friday night and it is Weekender time once more. And on this week's show we take a look at fictional things and historical things. As well as that, one lucky subscriber will win with a chance to win a copy of Warhammer Underworlds Gnarlwood from store.ontabletop.com. To be in with your chance of picking up that big box set, then you need to be a subscriber to the channel, pop a comment below, and if you can do all the social media, doobly-doo bits, like and share us around, that really helps us out. Otherwise, sit back and relax, because your weekend starts here. Hello everybody and welcome to the Weekender once again. I'm joined this week by Ben, John and Lloyd as we meander gently through the wonderful world of tabletop wargaming. So, before we kick things off this week, we've a little bit of bookkeeping or housekeeping to do. If you've been paying attention over on the site or on YouTube, you'll have seen a lot of videos go up this week for Corvus Belli's Warcrow Adventures.
Yes.
So many videos. So many.
So many. Some of them even narrated by me. How tragic is that? That'll put you to sleep. So this is Corvus Belli's first dive into fantasy gaming, which is currently cropping up on Kickstarter. We'll come back to that later on in the Kickstarter segment so you can have a better look at it. But just to let you know that there is a mountain of videos out there. And as you can see, this is part of a
extended
first step into fantasy via a dungeon crawler. But the models will be compatible with the Warcrow wargame, which they're going to go into more detail in Gen Con next year as well.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in taking part in a whole band of fighters, or maybe picking up some of the creeping unknown that lurks within the mist and Lindworm, then you can get involved with that.
I mean, just look at these mini pictures. As soon as these came in, I was like, oh, we have to show peeps, because this gives you a really good impression of what this might be like when it becomes a full-fledged war game as well.
That's very cool.
It'll be fascinating to see what direction they take it. At the moment, it has a very Aristea kind of feel for the dungeon crawler. But whether or not they keep that or move more towards Infinity or go for sort of massed battle when they actually hit the war game down the line, we've no clue yet.
I would guess
sky is the limit.
I mean, I'm just going to guess. I would guess they're going to keep it sort of skirmish level.
Someone said that the characters from this would end up as like leader figures and stuff, so that'll be interesting to see how that works. Yeah,
maybe it isn't skirmish level if they're going to be leaders.
Well, it might just
be leaders and regiments and stuff behind them.
It might be like you get a small unit to go alongside you, a little bit like in sort of Conquest First Blood or something, where you have sort of character models that will lead small units and stuff on the tabletop. Either way, it's very cool, and it'll be nice to see, especially how the bad guys kind of develop. I think because obviously we've seen a lot of the heroes and stuff. So
the main sort of villains that creep around, being strange body horror nightmare amalgamations, will be a playable faction in the war game. So they were saying you can more or less get a big chunk of your army for them if you're after the enemies. So if that's the sort of the various levels they're going to have, because there's
Let's see the group shot.
A whole rake of them, from I suppose dungers, creepy corpses stuck together with tarry ichor, up to actual body horror elves in a Hellraiser-esque kind of way who are looking to amalgamate themselves. So you've got various ranks within it, and again they're planning on doing that across the board. So you've got elves, dwarves, humans, and even orcs being good guys. So very different take on the fantasy trope.
Yeah, it's one of the things that a lot of people said in the comments. They really like how all those kind of classic fantasy races are there, but they've all been tweaked slightly so that they've got almost like a unique Corvus Belli Warcrow feel to them. So it's always nice to see. So, I mean, because you've got your classic elves and humans and dwarves and stuff, but there's always something there a little bit different, which is nice. So,
yeah. And I want to say from memory that the elves may be multiple not factions, but you do have your more wood elf, feral style, and then and then people who live in cities, like real people do, and not like a squirrel up a tree. So that's interesting to see where they go with that, as well as the various sort of human factions within it. Like I say, more on that and the dungeon crawl
dive into
itself.
Kickstarter in more detail.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that later on. But right now, it's time for the most important part of the week. It is the indie of the week. And this week, I've got a little arty one for you because I'm like
arty.
I'm an arty kind of guy.
How very bourgeois of you.
So Nocturna models, they do a range of figures in a range of scales, from large scale busts and diorama pieces that really lean into the art side, down to 30 to 35 mil figures that work in war games as well. So a few of them come from different sculptors. One of them, which we'll take a look at a little bit later, Malefic Time, is based on a Spanish graphic novel series. So
cool.
They are actually characters from that. If you know what Malefic is, then you'll know who those people are. I don't, unfortunately, because I haven't been able to get my hands on an English version of it yet. But I believe the Malefic in question is a sword. However, starting off with the sort of Nocturna 30 mil themselves, you can see there, some of these will reappear in 54 mil. So if you want the larger pieces or the busts to paint, you can do that as well. But then they have this line of 30 mil figures, which, as far as heroes go, with a historic / low fantasy feel, I think these are absolutely divine. That model in particular, I have wanted for so long that I'm surprised I haven't bought it yet. Compared with, there's a Jerry Wizard later on, which I really should have just got my hands on the pair of them before now, because it has a mixture of damsel in distress / vampire trying to lure people to their deaths. Could go either way depending on your paint job with that lady, because creeping around in a graveyard, it's not right. So we can see some barbarians in classic barbarian armor.
I remember a bunch of these popping up over the last couple of months, year or so, and seeing a lot of people look at these and being like, "Oh my god, these are amazing, like artist pieces." And then a bunch of people are like, "Yeah, but you can also use them for wargaming. You don't need."
Oh god, yeah.
They're not just something to stick on the mantelpiece.
the I can't remember what her name is. Nocturna herself, I've seen in many armies as a Bretonian damsel. Because a lot of people,
that'd be a really good fit, actually. Yeah.
A lot of people who play Bretonians can't get their hands on the models these days, or are unwilling to pay eBay prices, which makes a lot of sense because they're ridiculous.
It's a dwarf.
Dwarves are very nice.
I don't know if I could handle it. Like if I put it done at €25 for that dude, and I'd be like, "Yeah, see those crispy hands of yours? They can't touch this model." I might be that guy.
a lot of people are that guy already, and the alternative is, I think he's a kind of a giant, half giant barbarian-esque fella. I was
going to say €25 for a giant. He's pretty awesome.
He's not a massive giant. He's
right.
But he'd be not dissimilar to something like a Rackham Keltos.
Okay.
Half giant. So they're sort of head and shoulders above a normal human. But again, if you're looking to get your hands on something like that, you'd be quite tricky to do so.
I really like the transitions on the website between the models and the painted models.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
For once, I don't have to clumsily chunk my big fingers in there. I really like the the orc, and Wasteland is absolutely darling. There's actually, if I remember correctly, there's a couple of painted versions of Wasteland, so it should scroll between them. There you go.
Look at that. Lovely.
Which just goes to show what a difference a paint job makes. I mean, good, evil.
Yeah.
Good. And burn out your eyes.
Or richer and poorer.
Well, yeah. I can afford colored cloth.
The orc's really nice as well.
The orc's lovely, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know whose foot that is hanging off a shield. I'm hoping they don't still require it. It would be a terrible thing to be limping around behind him.
That would be a cool like dungeon boss for sort of your orc warband or something if you're role playing incorrectly. But
Yeah.
not incorrectly.
Another dwarf as well.
Yeah.
And like I
Armendale.
said, you know, these will set quite happily on a proper square base or, you know, a larger round lip base, which means you can quite happily game with them. I really like just the fact that as a hero or character, you've read the Gotrek books. Do you remember the very first Gotrek book where it's him and Felix waking up drunk and they end up in the sewers? I mean, that's one step away from Gotrek in the sewers looking to find out what Skaven things are creeping along Blue the Town.
Just put the eye patch on the right eye. Oh no, has he lost it yet? Oh no, he hasn't fought the Wolf Riders yet, has he at that point? No, so
it's been so long since I've read the original trilogy, so he may be okay. But between him and then that ridiculous elf. That
is quite the shoulder armor. It's a shield.
It's a shield, right.
I thought it was like a very big 80s shoulder pad.
massive shoulder pad. What's worse than that, he's left-handed, so that's a sinister elf.
Sinister elf.
I don't know. I can't get... I've got this visual of him just surfing down the side of a mountain on this boulder.
I mean, you know, it's no worse than Legless surfing down a set of stairs on a shield.
Just slinging it down the lava, carving his way down. That's what he's doing.
What you do is you just mount him.
All that anime again.
You mount him higher than the dwarf, and then that means that glow is actually coming from his lantern.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
So I say that's Nocturna's own sort of range of 30 mil. The Emerald series then 35s, and these are absolutely divine. Wait till you see the wizard.
I'm guessing this has come from a bunch of French and Spanish people because they seem to be the ones that do all of this amazing stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that dwarf. If you ever a leader is required for my free dwarves, it may well be him.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely stonking. Again, another one of those evil elves stabbing people up. Or could be a demon, I suppose. Might not have to be a headdress, could be actual horns.
And Death looks awesome as well.
Yeah.
You could paint him up with much paler skin and you'd have yourself a Elric, I reckon.
Yeah. I mean, the skin doesn't need to get much paler.
Well, that's true.
I mean, the transition between resin and painted is practically non-existent. You know, it's greyish skin.
Yeah, just paint it straight over.
Yeah. Creepy evil elves or leader of the undead or what have you. He's magnificent.
Thunder the Barbarian as well. It's very nice.
Thunder's good. Thunder's got that massive 70s tash. He looks like maybe a member of Spinal Tap.
He looks like someone from the original, like the Arnold Conan movie, like one of his followers or something.
Just need to run him past a tiny henge.
Hench small, he's kicked it over. You could probably replace that sword with an electric guitar as well.
He's almost in there.
He's strumming
guitar solo.
Man, these are amazing.
Some of the elves and shady looking human types stealing everything.
I think I need to buy the one on the left. Eileen.
The female
Eileen looks amazing.
Yeah.
There's something about the expression and the pose.
She's got that. Why has Gandalf just saddled me with 4 midgets? Look. Which female Aragorn would have.
Yeah.
I can't believe you've done this to me. Get your ass back here, you grey get. Speaking of grey gets.
Wow.
Now, I'd like to point out that wizard chucking those rocks. Those rocks are sculpted on. It looks like an illustration. It's not. That is the wizard Brilliant. I really, really want.
That worked really well.
And lobbing rocks at people.
If you described to me you were going to sculpt a miniature, it's going to have floating rocks, but the rocks are going to be stuck to the miniature, I'd be like,
Yeah, no, none of that, please. I don't want any of that. It sounds ridiculous. Whereas it does look like he's picking them up off the floor and about to chuck them at you, like the Russian version of the Avengers, the Guardians. Where the fact that
the fact that cloth is folded around the rock really helps sell it.
Yeah. I mean, their sculptors, their painters are fantastic, but the sculptors' vision for things like that is just insane. Even things like the little Roblin there. Look at him. Look at his tiny little man with his big hat and his skull. Got a skull, you can't take it away from me.
He's amazing. €12 is actually pretty good for him.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good price.
I mean, even I'll quite happily pay
1750 for that guy is amazing.
1750 for that. Because why would I not? I mean, if you in a lot of games or armies, wizards tend to survive the entire battle. So they will be on the battlefield all day long, as long as you don't push them out in front of some goblin fleet bag riders like my druid. At which point,
what's this? 35? He'd be a big ass wizard.
Yeah, but these days, because he's 35, but he's realistically proportioned. And that's the thing with all of these humans, all these models, they don't have big head, big hand syndrome.
Yep.
So even though they're listed as 30 to 35, you'll find they're probably about the same scale as a lot of the heroic. I use the word.
Especially when you factor in the scenic base elements, I suppose, as well. So, because that's giving a little bit of extra height to things.
You'll find 28s are probably about the same size. They're just bulkier and with fatter limbs and stuff, whereas these are just a delight.
And you sometimes want your hero to stand. Well, you definitely want your hero to stand out from a regiment or a squad or something, don't you? So
yeah. And then these are the Malefic 110 Katanas, which is the name of the graphic novel. So these are specific
cool
characters from within it. I believe that sword is actually Malefic itself. That's who's running.
It looks a little bit like the one in the art in the image. So. Oh no, that's a lady. Never mind. Oh yeah, very nice.
But again,
oh my god, they're all edgelords.
I want to say he's called Mardok St. Patrick or something like that. It's really weird. I know he's called Mardok down there, but there's a bigger version of him.
They all brood and give the blue steel stare when the camera turns on them. That's exactly what happens. So.
And then if I go, there's Lulz, who definitely has. Yeah, so that sword is Malefic. Yeah. But then if I go, there we go, Mardok St. Patrick. And that's why there's no snakes left in Ireland.
He's used them all to make his leather chaps.
Where are the toenails? Gee whiz.
Oh yeah, he's creepy.
There's
creepy looking vampire.
No socks for him. Never been able to wear them.
Yeah, like say the line itself, obviously for painters, there's some stonking stuff in there, like I will throw up Merlin for you because it would be really not to throw up Merlin.
Oh.
I mean, wouldn't you want him anyway, even if you couldn't game with him? Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you, Ben? Look at him. And it can't be long before somebody goes, can we not debigulate him using a debigulating ray? Because a 30mm version of him for a druid, I would take over any druid currently on the market from anybody, I think.
I'd still fail them and say he invigulated himself with a spell.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you could do that.
Look at me and my big bird.
It's true.
Have they got that dragon on the site as well that's in the background?
Which dragon? Oh, that dragon?
Yeah. Me want to see dragon.
It's somewhere, but I can't remember where it lives.
What's Fenrir and what's Durkin on that list? Because Fenrir is an awesome name.
Oh,
no!
There you go. Unlucky.
No!
What I will say is you can definitely see the dragon when you come and look at things like the art book. So they do have some other bits and pieces that I thought I'd just touch on while we're here. There is the art book, which, I mean, if you're looking for a coffee table book of things to make you cry and weep into your drink at night, when you've just slapped another level of contrast paint onto something, well, that'll do. And then you just open the Art of Nocturna book and go, why have I done this to myself?
So what's in the art book? Is it all there, minis painted up, or is there more?
The minis on this site, I believe. So it's essentially like a 10-year retrospective, because some of the larger
it's €65 for a catalogue then.
well, no, because some of the stuff in here you can't get anymore and isn't on the website, like Fenrir, for example, because some of the larger pieces are just there as sort of
so it's €65 for a catalogue you can't buy things from. That's even worse.
The sculpting and painting process. I've
still got my catalogues from Rackham, and they're all gorgeous. You just don't paint enough. Your problem is you keep sticking shields on things. If you painted more, you'd
My
appreciate
problem
it.
is I don't stick shields on things. I really should just stick them on and be done with it.
But they also have a paint range of their own now.
Oh, nice.
I have their old paint ranges, which were supplied by Vallejo. And it was a really strongly themed fantasy set. So they did like a fairy flesh set, a demon/cold flesh set, an imperial purple, and a crimson red. Now, these, I want to say they were on Kickstarter a while ago. So these are different. Don't know who's producing them for them. They come in pots like the old Coat d'Arms /GW, sort of 18mm pots with flip tops on them. I know a couple of people have got them and say that they're fantastic paints, but I can't speak to the quality myself. But for very striking fantasy colors, for going, well, here's your triad or your tones, they're right there. You see the way the colors are bent around the box lid. They do that because they have a set of, it will generally be like, here's cold purples and then here's warm purple. So like the set itself is split 4 and 4 essentially, although you can obviously mix, match and play around to your heart's content, but they're sort of grouped together in how you would use them on a model or use them within the sort of triad or quadrad themselves. So interesting for people looking to pick up a different range of tones. I mean, the grey paint set, those the deep green, deep purple, I've used the old version of that for doing Fey and demon flesh and having that as your base tone and then working up through them, and it gives a very different effect than sort of just sticking to the pinks. So
I wonder how matte they are, because like their first point there is matte acrylic colors. Straight away they're saying they're matte. I wonder how matte they actually are.
Unfortunately, I don't know. If I thought I would have
Matt, they dry you out.
if Rumbly is watching, you can tell us how matte they are, because I know you're one of the guys who picked them up. On a scale of, well, Vallejo are fairly matte. Scale 75, suck all the light out of the room. They're so matte. I imagine they'll probably fall somewhere in between those two, without hitting the sort of the satins. But yeah.
Well, they've been used on the models there, so
yeah. Well. No, because some of that paint range has only come out prior or subsequent, to the figures.
They do historical models.
They do, but they're all large scale.
I mean, those are amazing, though.
Yeah,
I don't care. Show me now.
But like I say, if you're not interested in the sort of fantasy-esque things for gaming, but you might be interested in just picking up a large scale model to do a little bit of diorama type thing.
Oh, hello.
Odin's just there like, I didn't see you there.
It's Odin chilling in his house.
You stepped into my boudoir.
But again, the figures themselves, obviously,
lovely stuff.
The paint job on them is cracking, but you can see the miniatures themselves are very, very nice. Yeah, sculpts and well cast as well. So yeah, I'll throw a go on them, because I know you'll kill me if I don't. Which one do you want?
Oh, I want the World War II one.
Is that the German one?
You think you had to ask?
Oh no.
Very Samari Glees type of leaning in a window.
Oh wow.
I want that right now.
Oh wow, it comes with all the diorama
so good. Damn it.
It's the nice thing about diorama pieces for large scale figure painting. They will often have them, so you don't have to mess around.
Oh, that's so nice. It's no longer in stock.
You never know your luck. They may get
there'll be one somewhere.
Don't worry though, John. You can go buy the catalogue and admire it in the catalogue.
I occasionally buy books like that. Often, but I do.
Oh, I've got quite a few kicking around in various places. Because
would never have guessed you'd have had quite a few. Because
it's great, especially if you're painting something and you're just looking for inspiration.
Is it a way of basically repeating the feeling you had as a kid when you opened the Argos catalog and went, I'll have all that for Christmas, and I'll have all of this for Christmas. So to relive that experience as an adult, now you need a book full of miniatures that you'll never buy, but you can look at it and go, I could have all of that. I could, I can't have you. You're out of stock, but I can have all of you.
It's more like having a color wheel, but not having to think about how I'm going to use this color wheel. I go, oh, that's a really nice idea for an elf. I'm just going to steal that outright, like evil blue-skinned death elf. Just go, what if I did all my dark elves like that?
That would be amazing.
My Twigletkin could rise. Who knows? But anyway, so that is Nocturna models. A little bit fantasy and a little bit of the artistic types. May be interested in checking them out. We're going to take a quick swish and we'll be back with the news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
Okay, and we're back for the news. And we're kicking things off with a sop to me, I think, with some Kings of War news. So the pre-order have gone up for both a new 2-player starter set for Kings of War, which brings in the new Ogre army and the Empire of Dust in the sands of Amun. But alongside that, a whole host of new ogre-type things. So, like the previous 2-player starter sets, this has everything you need to get stuck into rank and file fantasy wargaming and Kings of War. Includes a little mini campaign and quick start guide in the sands of Amun. For those playing along at home, if we look at Panathor, we'll find that Amun is the region to the south bordering Ophidia. Now, that's interesting because they've been teasing good undead from Ophidia since Panathor / Mantica started umpteen odd years ago. And Ron, I think, was saying recently that this is going to be exploring more of the southern part of the continent. So we may expect some things like campaigns and bits and pieces to take place there to start expanding the the world. So you'll get everything you need in there to kick off. Including the sexy new red book, which has got all of the rules for everything, plus any FAQ'd bits and pieces have all gone in there as well, along with 2 hordes of the new plastic ogres we'll take a look at in a minute. 2 resin characters, 1 ogre warlord and 1 filthy Ammonite pharaoh. Give them wings of the honey maze, watch your opponents cry. 40 infantry and 10 cavalry, so you can stick them out as hordes, troops, regiments, whatever you feel like in that respect. So a nice chunky new plastic starter army. And as people who are aware of the ogres and they're having skipped leg day look, that has been changed.
Yes, they're a lot more. I actually quite like the old look as well.
I like the old look, yeah. And that's not just because I have a massive army. But these are new hard plastic, so styrene based, not PVC, softer plastic. So multi-part kit. You can see here is the starter army, which gives you the resin warlock, courtesy of Jesse, which was a really nice miniature they did, and I believe still giving money to charity for him. Works very well as Nomagrok or Nom Nom to his friends. And then in this, 3 more hordes. So again, you can split them down any way you want. But with the ogres, they come with shooters. No, sorry, they don't. They come with boomers. So short range blast weapons like blunderbusses, single-handed weapon and shield, and double-handed weapon on the sprue. So you can make any of those options. There's also a mega army, which swaps in the resin warlord again and adds new of the plastic chariots with mob beasts pulling them, which I think is utterly darling. I know some people are going, don't like them. Well, you know,
have the goblins got chariots yet?
They're a bit cute. The mob beasts, aren't they?
Yeah, but mob beasts are very cute. It has to be said. Let me see, where are mob beasts? Because we'll be able to see them up close and personal there. There you go. They are just a massive mouth on legs, hence the maw.
They're kind of squig equivalent almost in many ways.
Yeah, like the land shark of Panathor. Now these are hard plastic, and the chariot body itself is going to be used for the orcs, the goblins, and the ogres.
Okay. Yeah,
and the ogres already use goblins on mob beasts for scouts, and let's face it, chaff the first line to get whittled down.
Are they the red skin goblins that they use for the ogres? Yeah.
Yeah, well, they paint them red or get them to wear white, so they know which one's not to hit. So red goblins, ours, other coloured goblins belong to other people. Feel free to hit as much as you want. So, because it's hard plastic, if you don't like them all based, I'm sure you can find something else to stick underneath them. But I like the fact that they've gone with it because it keeps the theme throughout what are they going to find to pull out? Well, they've already got a load of goblins kicking around with these things anyway. So that's what they'll put on there in Savage. I imagine that means they've got the tooling in some state that we may see mob-based cavalry in hard plastic for the goblins as well.
That would be cool. Yeah.
They remain rustic, whereas the goblin infantry got an upgrade a little while ago. There's also a couple of upgrade packs coming with this. So these will be the hard plastic ogre sprues, but then with resin pieces to make the different unit types. So siege breakers, which I think by law you have to field 2 hordes of siege breakers at any 2,000 plus point game of ogres. I know I certainly do, and I'm not alone in that. Crush 2, massive shield, defense 6 to the front.
They look amazing.
They do look great, and you just walk forward and make your opponent cry because he just can't get through that wall of shield coming right at you. And if he does, then he gets a mob-based chariot in the flank, probably. There's also the actual shooters. So this is your long range, essentially ogre artillery. Again, resin arms to change the standard plastics into these 18 Pierce 2 shots. I took off a whole unit of, I think, Brock Riders, the dwarf berserkers mounted on feral badgers. I took them off in turn 1 against Justin, and I never played Kings of War again. So make of that what you will about how good the shooters are. But yeah, they're a delightful bunch of people. But yeah, the new plastics I really like.
They look great.
Up armored, obviously chunkier legs, so they match the Vanguard resins that have already come out, so the Boomer Sergeants and the Matriarch and that sort of thing that have already appeared, while still having enough similarity to the old stuff that it won't completely be disparate. In fact, they've kept the head ball socket, so you can mix the heads with the older ones, or if you've got, because whenever you bought them, you would get multiple heads anyway. So if you want to mix up a bit more sprue-wise, you've got plenty to be playing around with. But yeah, exciting times come Christmas. I'm just waiting on my big red book arriving. I've ordered it.
A lot of people have been saying they just look like big orcs, but I quite like that. Like I'm fed up of the aesthetic that Games Workshop has done for ogres, where they're just big flabby people. Yeah, fat people. And I was like, I want big muscular badass ogres.
I've seen people go in their big orcs, but my counter to that would be, show me an ogre and an orc in real life, and then point out the differences. The differences between a real ogre and Mantic's interpretation of an ogre for their fantasy world. Because I think, and I could be wrong here, I don't think orcs and ogres are real people.
But I like fat ones.
I hate the fat ones so much.
Ones? Okay.
Fat ogres.
No, they all look like they're one step away from type 2 diabetes. Their feet will come off, and then
that's why they're so angry.
But
then they require mob-based chariots to pull them around.
Ogres don't get diabetes. Remember, Jay, they're not real.
That's true. They're not real. It's the only thing saving them from the old type 2. But yeah, so yeah, loads of stuff coming from Mantic. Also, as part and parcel of that, with the big red book just being the rules, you can actually, I know there's a code inside the book, but I believe on the website you can go and download all of I believe, I've already done it, even though I don't need to. There's 320 pages of backstory, lore, and fluff from the rule books that have already come out that you can just go and download off Mantic's site, and will be part of their app when their app comes out, which is going to be for list building rules and fluff as well. Which may also be later on this year. So if you're interested in finding out why ogres shouldn't be fat and why mob beasts are like little land sharks, you can go and get a massive tome's worth of stuff. You will have to read it digitally, which is terrible, but I have the books, so I'm okay. I can flick through paper. So that's good. Anyway, that's enough of Kings of War. Otherwise, we will be here all day, and I'll just start list building in front of you on Easy Army. What's up next, Ben?
So next up, we're going to be looking at something a little bit tiny. So we've looked at big, huge, monstrous creatures, but now we're going to be looking at small, tiny, historically real individuals. No
Not
fantasy
ogres.
here, not ogres. No, so we're going to be looking at Pendraken miniature stuff. So a lot of people will know they do 10 mil. We've looked at them as an Indie of the Week back in the past and all that kind of stuff as well. But they've been recently working on bringing together their sort of updated and refreshed Russo-Japanese war range. Now, this came to, they're very small. So
Well,
not just the miniatures.
in this case, there is there you go. Look at that.
There we go. Yeah. So this was originally designed because a customer wanted this. So they built the army specifically for them. But they've also said that they can put them on general sale, and so they're going to be doing that as well. So just as a point of order, those flags that you see on the top of the miniatures on some of the commands, they're not going to be in the official release of the set when it goes out to everyone else. You'll just have little stickers or transfers or whatever you need to use to build those, or just make your own or anything like that. But yeah, paper banners. But yes, this is going to be a set of both obviously Russian and Japanese troops for you to use. They've pretty much ironed out everything they want to do for the range at the moment. So there's going to be the command elements that we've seen so far. There's the core infantry that are going to be done up in a couple of different dress types. So you've got the not in a couple of different dresses, but you've got summer troops, and then you've got sort of winter troops and all that kind of stuff as well, which is always nice to see. They're also working on cavalry and artillery crews as well. And that kind of brings me to kind of where they're going to be taking the range going forward. They're also going to be designing actual artillery pieces to go with this at the same time. And all of this, as you can see, is done in 10 mil. So it's going to be perfect for those people that want to play out very, very small armies on very, very big scales for fighting things out. And as we talked about last week, this is one of those periods of history that I think a lot of people kind of just gloss over, but it's a pretty important sort of section of European and or Asian history that not a lot of people sort of really play on the tabletop because, you know, this was all sort of around Nicholas II and his kind of, as I like to call it, his long defeat almost, where he just relentlessly kept bashing away at the Japanese to try and win, almost to save face, effectively. And it kind of laid a lot of the seeds for the revolution and sort of what happened in World War I and everything like that as well. But it also kind of cemented the Japanese as a proper military fighting force that people actually believed could do stuff rather than just being sort of like, oh, it's just the Japanese kind of thing, which I think was really important, actually. So if you are interested in that kind of area of history, I would highly recommend going to learn a little bit more about the Russo-Japanese War, because it is fascinating. I did a little bit about it for sort of my modern history stuff at college, and I thought it was going to be, oh, fussy, blah, whatever. Where's World War One? Give me World War One. But it's very cool.
There's a great video on Potential History's YouTube channel about the naval encounter where the Japanese basically tore the Russians apart. Yeah, he does a whole explanation of the run up to it and why it was so bad, and and he does it in a comical way, so it's very easy to follow along with.
That's cool then. Well, if you can find me a link for it, John, I'll try and put it down in the show notes. That'd be cool.
I will try.
Yeah. I was also going to say, this is, I believe, hopefully I'm getting my history right. Someone correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But
don't worry, they will.
But I believe,
even if you're not wrong, they will.
I believe this Nicholas II was the last general to ride into battle alongside his troops before everything changed, or generals sat at the back in an office somewhere in Sandringham or something. But yeah, so if I'm wrong, please correct me, but I'm fairly sure I learned that in college. Otherwise, my lecturer was an arsehole, but there we go. And he's come back to get me many, many years later. But as you can see, they've expanded the range over on the preview page and showed off a lot more models. There was a lot of them to dive into, so I didn't really go too much into it. But you've also got your Chinese civilian set as well, which is well worth having a look at. And it's just really nice that basically a customer's like, I'd like a new army. And they went, yeah, sure. And then this meant that they could kind of refresh the range as a whole for a pretty important scrap in modern history. So there we go. Very cool.
Interesting stuff, especially whenever, because what happens over there generally reflects what then happens in Europe. Prime example being that obviously had an impact on World War One, but then prior to World War II, Japan didn't get much in the way of additional lands, which is why they swapped from being an ally in World War One to being an Axis power in World War II, because it was like, you know what, we really want big chunks of China, Russia, and anybody else around us, and you can't tell us.
Hello, Manchuria. Yeah,
pretty much so. So it's a shot goes round the world, I think is the phrase, isn't it? Yeah.
And also, gaming in 10 mil. Check it out, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, very, very much so. Yeah, if you want to do things on a grand scale, definitely 10 mil is a great way to look at it, and not have to require a barn to actually set the engagement.
And so much easier to paint as well. Yeah. But anyway, moving things on, we've gone from sort of fantasy into historical, and now we're going to sci-fi. We're looking at some new stuff from Wargames Atlantic. They have expanded on what's available for Death Fields with a whole new range of aliens for you to dive into and have fun with. So these are the Harvester's alien bugs, which would you like to know more? So yes, this is a awesome set of plastic aliens for you to use in your role-playing games, your sci-fi skirmish games, maybe even a little bit of fantasy if you want a weird, creepy fantasy force to face on the tabletop.
I was looking at them for Night Stalkers to use them as
exactly.
Reapers.
They'd be perfect for that. The set comes with 30 multi-part plastic miniatures in the set. 20 of those are the big bugs with all the blades. And then the other 10 are the smaller bugs that you see. So kind of like the lava stage versions of the creatures that you could use bursting out of people's chests or something, if you prefer to do that. In addition to all of the melee options that you see there, because obviously big claws, they've also done ranged weapon options as well. So you can have kind of like underslung weapons that are attached to the creatures if you wanted to add some sort of threat from afar into the mix.
Do we have pictures of that?
Unfortunately, there's not. There are some images on the sprues, but I don't think I put the sprue picture in there. But
no, I think these were early. Well, these would have been the prototypes that were painted up for the box art. So I don't think they had those ones.
They will be pictured on their web store, though, which we'll look at in a second. Yeah. But there you go. That gives you an idea of the scale of them compared to the new Ura Marines, which came out for, well, all of these things are for pre-order anyway, but the Ura Marines came for pre-order quite recently as well. So if you wanted to have a proper full-on Marines versus Bugs showdown, you can indeed do that, which is always nice to see. But as I said, I don't think there's anything stopping you from using these for pretty much any genre of game, because there's nothing overtly sci-fi about them. You know, call them alien bugs, but they could be absolutely anything. Yeah. They could be a fantasy swarm that's been sort of dug from the bowels of the earth by some evil warlord or something. So
Russian Napoleonic troops, they could be them.
They could be them as well. Oh my God!
Just put
Starship Troopers
on.
Starship Troopers, but Napoleonic. Oh my God!
Give everybody a shako and away you go.
Le Haissant, but aliens.
It was interesting when they did, because they started previewing these a while ago, and then essentially went, you know what? What do you think we should call them? Because we're just calling them bugs at the moment because Starship Troopers. And so they essentially ran a competition where people could suggest a name and backstory for them, who they are, where they come from, and they picked out the best. And then I think the winner got a big Galvy bucket load of tiny fighting miniatures for the trouble. So the blurb that you'll read on the back of this box when it comes out has been written by just a Wargames Atlantic fan. But I really like how they've approached things like that, and because they have a forum. In fact, we've got the Desk Field site, so I'll just do that.
But are they called the Harvesters because they have big thighs for mowing down the wheat?
Yes, let's say yes.
They're actually just sci-fi peasants. But
yeah, but you can go to the Wargames Atlantic forum and read all the various runners-up, shall we say, i.e., losers.
There we go. We can open up that Harvesters one. I think they've got the sprue pictures at the bottom of the gallery there, so we can have a look at those. But in general as well, just having a look at the Death Fields website at the moment, they have, I think there they go. There's the range weapons at the bottom. Yeah. It's like four of them to choose from.
So they shoot from their arms, not from their arses then?
Yes. There's no arse shooting with these guys.
your game, your way.
Yeah, well, that's true. You could stick them on their arse. Who's to tell the anatomy of these bugs? But the Death Fields range as a whole has expanded hugely since it first came out.
I mean, just the poor Raumjäger by themselves. Yeah.
And you know how last week we were talking about the idea of building up Imperial Guard forces, Astra Militarum stuff and things. You know, obviously it would be really nice for Games Workshop to do a lot of their stuff, and we will talk a little bit about that later. But I think if you're looking for alternatives there's a heck of a load of good stuff for you to choose from when it comes to Wargames Atlantic. And not just for kind of like standard sci-fi stuff either. We looked at a ComSpot last weekend and was also featured this week over on Tabletop, where someone used the bulldogs to represent Victorian sci-fi miniatures.
Yes.
So you've got some really awesome ideas there too. They even have space dwarves as well. So
yeah, and here you are.
Yeah.
Even yesterday, I put out a 3 colors up on leagues.
Yeah.
Backstagers. Yeah.
The Eisenkerns from the Dreamforge range and stuff. Yeah. Very cool. And you use the Les Grog dance, don't you, I think, Lloyd? Or have been looking at them, was it? I think.
I do have some kicking about. But then Games Workshop released their plastic deathcore, and I had to kind of put the end.
Oh, right. Well, there you
go. but this is going to be interesting. And this was another competition where they had a fight-off, I want to say 2 years ago. They wanted people to suggest what plastic kits they should make, and then they got a short list, then they got people to vote, and then there was multiple rounds where they whittled it down, and eventually the winner was a guy who wanted Landsknecht ogres. And I was like, okay, smashing. So they eventually went, okay, they're now here. And when they showed the sprue off, they went, by the way, there's also sci-fi components, so they can be part of the Deathfield range. So these haven't even hit pre-order yet, but as you can see there, it's bigger than a harvester. If a harvester was wearing an ogre head or a Russian Napoleonic shako, then they would be the same size. But otherwise, you can see there a bulldog and one of the Ura Marines, one of the vain-looking ogres / ogrins.
It was fascinating when they started talking a little bit more about the Landsknecht ogres last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
and they showed off the fantasy versions of them with their big swords and everything. Yeah. And I was like, and then we got the emails through. They're like, "Oh no, we're doing other stuff with them." And I was like, "The guns? Oh my god, these are amazing!"
I suppose if you wanted to make them look a little less fantasy, you could fill in with green stuff on their pantaloons, the little gaps.
But the slashed silk looks so amazing.
Just saying.
I think that's why they're going for the vein as the nickname, because they're all posh, outlandish outfits. But because it's hard plastic.
Easy fix for it.
Hard plastic. Break out the Dremel or a file and a bit of putty, and you just make them baggy pants on them, and you wouldn't have the big slash silk look. So it wouldn't take much to do.
A really easy ghillie suit conversion.
Oh yeah, just start sniper
ogres.
Yeah. I love the idea of an ogre sneaking forward in a ghillie suit, basically looks like a tree, and then just.
How do you snipe overwhelming firepower?
What is that ginormous mound crawling across the ground?
It's like a whole copse of trees just moving across the field. Going, it's a little bit. It's a haystack just moved.
But it's one of the things that I think we've talked about, because we've looked at the Wargames Atlantic range in pretty big detail through unboxings and everything. If you want to go and look at more, Jerry's unboxed pretty much, I'd say, most of the range at the moment.
Horses yet?
Haven't done the horses, but they are pretty much they're hitting the nail on the head when it comes to filling in all the gaps that the people want for not just sci-fi, but fantasy, historical, all sorts of different things like that. They've been involved in a whole bunch of different companies helping them out with their games, like 0200 Hours. They obviously did the plastics for that game.
Yeah, and they're going to be coming out separately as full boxes from Wargames Atlantic as well.
And working alongside, is it Laser Raptor? That's the company that did the Space Katashan Vietnam guys? Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's not. I think it's
Tech Raptor. No, not Tech Raptor.
Like Laser Reptilian or
Laser Reptilian.
Saurian Overlord,
one of those
or
things.
Something like
that. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
those massive multi-part Katachan looking fellows look amazing. There's an Indie of the Week we're going to have to revisit, because their actual resin range of stuff that it's based on is fairly stonking.
But if you're looking for something, are you looking for a plastic kit that's awesome? I would go and check out Wargames Atlantic. So,
with I'm going to call them the Saurian Overlords, because I think that's what they are.
I mean, we could look it up, but
but again, the community side of Wargames Atlantic is very good in that they're always looking for feedback and for discussion, which is why they set up the forum. And I believe it was at one point they went, are there any model ranges out there that aren't in plastic that you think should be in hard plastic? Why not suggest or reach out to them, or tell us and we'll reach out to them? And I think that's where that came from. The Saurian Overlord Katachan looking fellows was a case of somebody going, have you seen what they're doing? You could do these. You could do the core infantry in hard plastics for them. So, yeah, they're always on the lookout for more stuff. I don't know how they fit the time in. Hudson must just never sleep. I imagine Hudson's just wired up with Pro Plus and coffee all the time.
What's also awesome is that I often see updates from them about where the ships are with all your stuff on it. So they're like, your models are T-4 days away. It's great.
Well, that's just part of their website.
Yeah,
you can always just go to the website and check where anything is, because if it's not currently in stock, it will be either upcoming, and they have countdown timers, which means you can just go in to the where to buy part of the website and then just go. Yeah,
a countdown to joy. There you go.
I think it lurks in there somewhere.
There it is. Oh no, that's their stockists.
Oh no, it's their stockists. Yeah. There is one in there. Believe me, there is one. When it's just a massive container ship going to either Europe or Asia or whatever it happens to be, then you can. Oh no, hang on a minute. It lives in release schedule, doesn't it? Oh, it's down a minute. Revising page layout for better. That's
Reptilian Overlords. That's the name of the company.
I was so close with Saurian Overlords. If you go into the release schedule when this is fixed, it will list the ships and stuff they're on, because they transferred production from China to America. So everything ships out of there now. But yeah, excellent stuff. I need to get to work on some stuff. They've got really nice World War I ranges, and I want to play Blood and Valor.
I need those British, please. That would be nice.
I just need to paint the Germans and French that I've got, and then supplement with some.
They've made ogres in the time it took them to preview the British for them not to come out. Where are the British? Damn it! Never mind. Anyway, so we're covering all of the genres, I suppose, this week, because we're also going to be looking at some post-apocalyptic stuff as well. So the folks over at Modiphius have put together a bunch of new releases for Fallout Wasteland Warfare. And there's also an ulterior motive for why I brought this up, which you'll see later. So one of the new sets is the Forged Raiders that you can use to be basically the baddest of the bad guys in your games. So yeah, they're led by, and this isn't just a slur, they're led by Slag and Bedlam, who are going to go out and raid the Wastelands for everything they've got.
And who's this coming from?
This is from Modiphius for Fallout. So yeah. And you'll notice that chap at the back looks an awful lot like one of our crew. I wonder who that is. It's unfortunate that Justin's now called Slag. But
is that the one that's called Slag?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's the best news I've ever heard.
And if you open up the other picture that's next to that, Jerry, we can have a look at, and we can do a little bit of a comparison. Oh no! The next tab. Oh yeah. No. I mean, John won because he finished his costume, his cosplay. But look, there's Slag.
Just needs the beret upgrade.
Exactly. Yeah. So yes, this is your if you want to play the really, really bad guys in Fallout, this is the one to go for. There doesn't seem to be much moral grey within this section.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Let's see Slag again. Come on, bring him up.
Oh, he's going to thank you for this, Ben.
I mean, his beard does go all the way up to his ears. You'll need to trim that back slightly, but otherwise you're pretty much spot on there. Your work here is done.
But yeah, so you've got the Forged, which are an option for you to play around with if you want to take that route with the Raiders. Mm-hmm. Then you also have the set of the Ghoul Settlers as well. So this is a collection of named characters, but also there is one just random Ghoul Settler. I don't know why they made all of them named characters but one of them. They could have just probably found another one somewhere from the game to make. But anyway, there you go. So these are the people that you can use to represent sort of settlers and people that live within your community in your games of Fallout Wasteland Warfare.
Thing is, I remember where these characters are in Fallout 4. Like I've seen all these. I've seen the Forged and I've seen these guys as well. So I shot them all,
killed them.
It's one of the things that I think is really nice about what they've done with Fallout and also with the Elder Scrolls game. I love that kind of Leonardo DiCaprio, oh my God, moment where you point and you see these characters and you're like, I know where they came from, which is always nice. But yeah, so this is your sort of Ghoul settler set with a bunch of different characters for you to play with and use in your games. And then capping things off as well, there's also a character miniature for Jake Finch, who I am reliably informed by Modifius, because I've not played the game, is a guy who the Forged were attacking his settlement or whatever, and he was like, look, I've made something for you. Here, take this. And they took it, and instead of just going away, they went, why don't you join us? And he went, oh, okay, sure. Yeah. Oh, damn.
Spoiler alert.
He waved goodbye to his family.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, he gets a metal bullet through his head.
Well, there we go. So, yeah. I was about to say, maybe you'll be able to save his life, but John's ruined my dreams.
It's not worth it. He wasn't worth it in Fallout 4. He's not worth it.
Save his life for just ended.
So yeah, a bunch of miniatures that are kind of interconnected, which is always nice to see, and you can kind of play around with some fun ideas for scenarios, because obviously one of the nice things about Fallout Wasteland Warfare is that you can play kind of narratively driven stuff. You can play face-offs between warbands and squads and all that kind of thing at the same time. And capping things off for that release as well, there is one more thing. So there was also the Homestead expansion book. So a lot of people will know that with the Fallout games and also Skyrim and everything as well, there's often times where you can build your own locations and build your own homesteads. And this book comes with additional information for building up said settlements, looking after the resources of it and stuff throughout the growing campaigns. And also protecting it from raids and all that kind of stuff as well. So you'll have a little bit of a mini game within the game, which I think is a really nice thing to add, and it kind of builds on the expansion qualities of Fallout and stuff. So yeah, very nice.
You know, Justin also looks like a miniature version of Jamie Heineman in that picture as well.
Who is Jamie Heineman?
Mythbusters.
Oh, he's the walrus from Mythbusters.
The berry wearing one.
He does.
Oh yeah. Well, now no one will ever unsee these things. There we go. But anyway,
why would they?
Moving from the post-apocalyptic future to something that is equally as post-apocalyptic and yet still going on, we have the worlds of Warhammer 40,000 and Age of Sigmar. But we're going to be starting off with some 40k stuff because we've got another extra preview. You know how last week everyone was like, we won't see regiments.
That's true. Everybody just miffed you.
I didn't. I sat totally on the fence.
You did, yes. We won't see specialists. What are you talking about, Ben? Well, screw you, because look, Attilan Rough Riders have been previewed for use with Warhammer 40,000. Big, steroided horses charging into combat with very tiny riders on the back of them.
It's the shock lance that does the damage. Lance goes in, grenade explodes.
So yes, these are the update as a plastic kit since they last existed back in 2009, and they've been given a little bit of a revamp for you to use them on the tabletop once more. They come with their explosive tip lances, as they usually did, which is you can choose between frag and melter this time. So instead of just charging against infantry, you could charge a tank with a horse.
You always could charge a tank.
Well,
they were always amazing.
So now you've just got more reason to do it.
Why would you put frag on? Because a melter will definitely kill infantry.
Will definitely do it, yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A melter will melt them. Yes. They also come with lasguns, but who cares about those, right? It's all about the lances. That's the main thing. But we got a little bit of a preview of these, and we got a look at a full squad of them at the same time too. So as you can see, you've got a command character there with his saber at the ready. And you've got to see what looks to become some kind of like shock lance type element as well, for a little bit of melee combat too, which is kind of nice.
Elephants.
A lot of people have talked about the fact that the horses look massive, and I'm like, dude, this is a world where orcs and Eldar exist, and people are steroided out and turned into transhuman monsters. I think they can put steroids in a horse so that it can take a lasgun.
To be fair, if people are complaining about horses being too big, have they never seen a Shire horse?
Well, exactly.
Have they never
Shires are beasts.
Even I've never seen just a horse.
Oh yes,
because I'm fairly certain that's considering the size of that man. That horse is not massive.
Wow,
that horse is kind of horse size. I do like the fact that they've gone with the old Imperial Guard symbol as the branding on the horse's bum.
Yeah.
So if it gets stolen, you can recognize it as Imperial.
Oh, yeah, that's my horse.
Because that used to be
running away with it.
That used to be the old transfer sheet for the Imperial Guard.
Yep.
The winged skull. Don't know if it still is, but it certainly was.
hopefully this is a sign that we're going to be seeing them look a little bit closer at a lot more of those specialist units within the Imperial Guard and building up the regiments and stuff like that.
Well,
so
I'm looking at it thinking, I wonder if they could be altered into Death Guard or Death Corps sort of Rough Riders. And you know the way that they have that sort of alien horse, if you split its hoof in two down the middle, widen out and cut its tail off, and then
they called the Chem Riders.
Don't they have a little
Death Riders?
They have a little, they're like a skeleton tail on the back instead, sort of thing.
Oh,
I'd say the original Death Corps I remember seeing were just on horses.
Yeah,
I don't know when they changed over to lizardy things. I know they did.
I'm thinking of the Ken dogs.
They're just bigger, more badass looking horses.
You just need to give them a gas mask.
Yeah, and away you go
on the horse. I mean,
but you need to fiddle with their feet as well.
Oh, why? Who says?
Because look at the two little, like the camel-toed hoofy thing going on.
I know there's certainly a 3D printed version out there that's got that.
Oh, there's definitely is, yeah.
But I'm fairly certain the original Death Corps were just on horses. There was no.
No. They have they're weird alien horsey things.
They're
pokey toes.
Forge World.
Yeah.
But they're really expensive. So I was looking at these going, maybe these could be it, because for like months I've been sitting humming in hand about where would I get some sort of Death Corps riders from. Maybe I can convert these, or maybe I should go down a 3D printed route, or maybe I can convert these and then Games Workshop can sick of me and actually release them just as I finish converting these. That's never going to happen, because that would take 3 years to convert these, wouldn't it? For me.
Depends what shape shield you're going to decide to put on them.
Lloyd is right. They do have split hooves on the. I've put it in Discord for you.
And flipping bony tails.
Yeah.
You can just stick skeleton arms on their asses for that.
Poor horses. I would assume that the plastic kit is going to be that you'll have if it's like standard riders that they normally do for Games Workshop, it'll have the legs are separate and then the bodies and torsos and arms will all be separate. Hopefully, unless they do it as some kind of weird push together kit or something.
It'll be a big dirty monopose.
Yeah.
Either way, the head swap's what I'm worried about, because the head's going to be molded in and everything. It's not going to be a pop-on head these days, is it?
You might be able to just get away with just sticking the bodies and arms onto the top of the legs, perhaps, of the riders. But
at this point, it's easier to 3D print.
Probably, yeah. There you go. That's the Death Corps horsies.
It's this.
So,
nonsense. Oh.
What is it? Is it like a skeleton arse tail thing? What has it got? It's like a bony. Just stick a skeleton's arm on there and be done with it.
Like a coccyx. Yeah. And then they have got the little split hooves at the bottom. So yeah.
Weird.
It's so creepy. Anyway.
I don't think I've ever paid attention to the miniatures. I've only ever seen just the.
Well, look at this price.
The artwork.
You've seen the price tag and went,
no. I stopped paying attention to 40K probably a long time before they came out.
That's for 5 models.
That's for 5, yeah.
Oh, there you go. At least you're getting a squad. It's cheaper than 3 chaplains.
Like they had the balls to actually rebrand one of the images there with the modern 40K logo on it.
Hey, you know, because you can use them again.
Yes, this is still good.
You know you can use them now because there they are.
Yeah. So there we go. So a little bit of an update on what's happening with the Imperial Guard. Apparently, they've also said that Monday is going to be a big reveal. That could probably mean a tank, I'd imagine.
Or it might be something else. Tank reveal. We are actually waiting for
a new Chimera.
No, we're apparently it's a new tank, the Dorn tank.
Oh, okay.
Don't know.
Well, the last vehicle they got was like the one that came out with all the flyers, like way back in the day. So yeah, well, at least the last plastic tank anyway, plastic vehicle. But anyway, there we go. Moving away from the grim dark future, we also have some stuff for the Mortal Realms. So the Warhammer Underworlds Gnarlwood set is available for pre-order this weekend, and you'll be able to dive in and pick this up. So we looked at this when it was announced back during the big reveals by Games Workshop, but this will come with the 2 new warbands. So you've got the Gnarl Spirit Pack, which are your sort of Dark Oath barbarians that worship something that is chaos, but they don't quite remember that it is chaos or know that it's chaos. And so they're going to be stalking through the woods, trying to kill a bunch of things. and doing it in proper barbarian fashion. And on the other side of things, you've also got the Sons of Belmorn, which we showed to Lloyd, and he went squee.
They're the dudes. The guy in the front right is the dude from the Raid Shadow Legends ads.
Yes.
Blue glowy eyes. That's the dude from Raid Shadow Legends.
Yeah. But yeah, so you've got those 2 packs to choose from there. We talked about them in the past, so I won't go into too much detail on them. But alongside this, there's also going to be the release of the previous sets. So the Nether Maze pack's going to be made available. So you get the Cainite Shadow Stalkers on the left there, and then also the Clan Eshin Skaven at the same time. These packs are going to be available separately, even though they're obviously shown here in an image together, but you'll be able to pick these up alongside their card packs. So if you wanted to dive in and pick these up, you can do. And we'll give you some options for playing your games of Warhammer Underworlds with some of the latest hero sets, especially because they'll come with the Rivals cards. And then beyond that, for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, they're also going to be releasing a bunch of the Diachasm warbands. So these were the ones that were available with the last big release for Warhammer Underworlds, where it was set in the world in the Diachasm area of Ghur. But so these sets will come in their plastic sets, as you see here, but they won't come with their card packs. So if you didn't get those, you're still going to be able to get them. You'll have to find them from another source. But this allows you to add them into your Warhammer Age of Sigmar armies, because you could easily use them as character models for units if you really wanted to, or you can use them as their actual named collections as part of a larger force on the tabletop, which is kind of cool. So yeah, some nice stuff there for a variety of the different factions. I think there's 6 of these in total for you to dive in and have fun with. And obviously, one of the nice things about the Underworlds warbands is that they kind of give you a really nice slice of life look at the factions. And so if you've ever wanted to kind of dip your toe into a faction and see if you liked the look of them, liked painting them, just wanted to test paint schemes, these are a pretty fun way to go. And that crab nearly won Miniature of the Year last year for Games Workshop. So because everyone voted for it as a meme. So there we go.
Crab face.
Yeah.
Interesting bunch.
Those vampires are amazing. Anyway. Yeah. Fantastic stuff. But yeah.
Court of the Crimson King. Interesting stuff. I'm not sure why this orc is wearing a frog tiki mask. He's made out of cardboard.
Well, I think a lot of weirdly it goes back to if you go back to the Gnarl Spirit pack, which is the first set, and you look at the bug face at the bottom, a lot of people were tying it into that bug look. And I think last time we talked about these, there was the idea that that might be the race that was revealed instead of the Cruel Boys, like a new faction for Age of Sigmar. So that kind of theme is maybe carried through in a bunch of stuff. You'll see it in some of the faces and the skulls and things that appear in things as well. So maybe we'll get those in the near future. I don't know. But either way, a pretty awesome way to dive in and play some Warhammer Underworlds with new warbands. Pow, 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 pow.
And don't forget, you can win a copy.
You can win a copy. And if you don't want to win a copy for whatever reason, you can also pre-order it from store.ontabletop. Yeah, if you miss out, that's the way. So yeah, all of these will be available for you to pre-order. So have fun with that. There we go.
Okie dokie. I think that's sufficient onto the day thereof for the news. Let's have a quick swish, and when we return, we'll have Kickstarters and 3D printing. Okay, folks, we are back, and it's time to take a look at some 3D printing. Benjamin has found Eskice
Miniatures. Yes. So I picked this one out because I think they create an interesting mix of different things. Rather than being one of the 3D printers that we've looked at where they kind of very much focus on historical or fantasy or sci-fi, Eskice do a nice selection of different things that cover pretty much all different genres, really. So yeah, their latest set of Patreon releases kind of epitome that, really. So you've got a section of awesome World War stuff for you to play around with, which is always nice to see. You've got a little bit of World War One, a little bit of World War Two, and then also there's a sci-fi dwarf in the middle as well, because who wouldn't want one of those?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Wait, just before you get into this, or you're bringing up the pictures, how do you actually find these people?
You go to Patreon.
Yeah, and type in
Eskice Miniatures.
And how's it spelled?
ESKICE.
Okay.
I'm not going to spell miniatures. Also, if you want to be lazy, there will be a link down in the description below, so you can go and click that. Yep, pedants. There we go. So, anyway, so yes, there's a bunch of stuff for you to dive in and have a look at. So there's the World War II stuff, as you see here. So you've got Africa Corps sort of charging forward. You've got Galactic Space Troopers, which are in no way related to Star Wars, fighting things and taking on.
Those Africa Corps are going to run into a massive problem if all they've got is that.
Yes. So yeah, very cool stuff there. Looking very nice. It's one of the nice things about the Eskice range as well is that, like, I've had a look at some of the stuff that's over on my mini factory page, and some of their sort of older stuff is a little bit soft in places and things. But I think as time's gone on, they've added a lot more detail to the miniatures, especially when you see the ones here, which are really nice. So
I like the guy sniffing his hand.
I think you find his face palming. He has just watched the shot that was lined up to take out some sort of small light tank coming towards them across the Maginot Line, and then watched as they just drove round the corner and avoided the Maginot Line. It's like, where were our heads, Francois? The Maginot Line. It's not long enough.
That probably makes more sense than my cowpat disaster. Okay.
The other thing that you'll notice there that's actually mentioned in the image is that they're rescalable, so you can use these for 28mm if you want to, but I think these would be really, really nice scene done in sort of 15mm, I think. Because then I think sort of the slightly more exaggerated proportions that you see sometimes in their heads and hands will come off really nicely when it comes to kind of sort of identifying what a certain character is on the tabletop in 15mm. Yeah. So yeah, a really nice section of stuff for that kind of October period, as you can see. I think it's always nice to see people coming up with interesting ideas for moderns collections, I suppose, as well, because, you know, a lot of the time you'll see people doing stuff that is very specific to something, whereas I think it's really nice to see that basically Eskice has gone, let's just make stuff for a whole bunch of different things for World War II. And
stuff. Whatever floats their boat type of...
Whatever floats their boat, yeah. Making things that they like, really. And also nice to see the actual final products as well. So it shows what it looks like when it's actually been done, which is always good to see when it comes to...
Especially when you've got something like a sand ramp on either side that are, you know, absolutely perforated. I was thinking that's got to be a pain in the backside to print, because all of a sudden you're just hitting massive, you know, voids or negative space up here so often. But it's come out really well.
It's a nice level of confidence that they actually say, hey, we'll show you some of this stuff done as well. So
look, Polston gun.
So
you can make friends and influence people in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting bunch of stuff. This is all the
early
October bits. So they also have a website as well.
They do, yeah. So the website's really cool because it kind of gives you an idea of pretty much all of their catalogue of releases. But the other thing that's really nice about what Eskice do is that a lot of the things that you're seeing here, which are available as 3D printable files, STL files, essentially. You've also got access to a huge range of physical models as well. So if you want to get these physically, in most cases, you can just pick them up as the proper printed versions if you really want to. So if you don't have access to a 3D printer, you don't have a friend with a 3D printer, or you don't want to go through like a Fab Lab type thing or something, or you don't want to get Etsy, you don't want to bury yourself into Etsy, you can go and just check out everything from Eskice. And obviously, if you buy it from them direct, you get it direct, which is always nice.
Go on, Jay, click the price. Go on.
Yeah, that's why we're here. Because that'd be great for something like Saga, for example.
Wow.
Well, that's one of the nice things about, obviously, they say Saga there. So, but yeah, so this... that horse got a big bum, but anyway. So one of the nice things about this is they actually do a really good selection of stuff for the Dark Age. So you've got sort of Saxons and Vikings and all that kind of thing mixed into the mix as well. So there you go, Dark Age slingers, Vikings, berserkers. There's even a Drakar. You've got a longboat there as well, and the
with passengers. What looks to be one guy kicking back. Have a look at him in a moment.
Kicking back, relaxing on, cooling on, shooting some.
B-ball.
B-bops. B-ball outside the school, yeah. Look, there's Jerry at the front as well.
I get it.
Which one though? This is many different versions of Jerry.
Oh yeah.
It's like the ascent of man. It's just the ascent of Jerry, but my hair changes over time. Hair and beard length extreme.
Yeah.
That's
I really
me
like
there.
that tracker. Yeah.
Just having a snooze. Yes, I am. It's good. It's good to be me. There's also a free figure that you can download in the French section as well. So if you want to see how the actual things print out yourselves.
I'm sorry, it's a free French.
Not to be confused with the free French.
Yeah, it's a free French rather than the
Oh my God, what a nerdy joke that was.
Yes. Had to get one in.
That's Clinker. Ooh, Suma.
Oh, a chinchilla. Oh, not a chinchilla. Oh, I want one of those so bad. A real one, not. They're so stupid.
But they've
Are
got
those little tiny compartments at the front for the drivers.
That's the driver, and they've got like little pullover.
Yep, little pullover hoods.
Oh my God!
To protect them.
Yep.
Thus keeping the low profile, not having to actually make it too high.
Yep.
Does that have is that meant to have a gun at the front of it as well or not? Or is it? Oh, okay, right.
That's a light.
That's a light. Wow. So is it literally just for taking troops into battle?
It's a crappy little tractor that's it's designed to tow that crappy little trailer.
Oh,
that can't carry anything worth a damn.
Wow.
I'm sure if push comes to shove, they could probably
French.
It just looks like a bullet magnet.
Yeah, but just to a gun to the back line somewhere, you don't go forward.
Oh, a definitive Sherman pack. Oh,
with all sorts of Normandy-esque funnies. There's a mind flayer as well.
I like the M7 with the crew.
Yeah,
that looks good.
The priest.
Good. The other priest.
The other priest. We're showing both versions of priests. Actually, we're not. There should be a third. There could be the defrock priest.
I think that's really cool because I've seen priest kits in the past, but they don't tend to have as many crew on them. You tend to have maybe one or two, whereas that's gone all in. Oh man, I love the guy. I mean, that's probably going to be a nightmare to print and paint.
The guy at the back pulling his shoot down.
Yeah.
That's such a diorama piece. That's
yeah.
Or an objective.
Blown off course. I bet that prints pretty well, to be honest.
I would just be really worried about all the strings for
the problem will be getting all the supports off of it after you've taken
it.
The nice thing is, if they do fail, you just cut them all away and then just glue string.
Well, yes, you could do that
across it. Bosh, if it does fail, you've still got a substantial bit of silk up top.
I think that's a brilliant little kit. I think because it kind of, as you say, like it makes you think about scenario ideas. It also fills a nice gap in a collection, perhaps to make a very specific set of models, which is always nice as well.
Did you open the Sherman pack?
No, I didn't open the Sherman pack.
Open the Sherman pack. Open the Sherman pack.
Open the Sherman pack.
See other things.
But we want to see Sherman. Sherman.
Deny me staring at a Sherman for 10 seconds. Nice.
Sherman pack.
Very nice kit. Yeah.
So now it's all the M4A3 variants as well.
Were the chains used for breaking up minefields? Is that what they were for?
Yes.
Yeah.
They were okay with barbed wire as well.
Right.
Yeah, there's the Calliope and the standard A3 and the Cullen's Hedgerow cutter and the 76mm gun.
Look, it's even got the snorkel.
Yeah. You don't see many kits with the snorkel.
Yeah.
Oh, we know which kit John is going to be downloading when he gets back. So.
Say that, but you could actually just be going ahead and doing Jawas instead.
Jawas!
They're furrier than you think.
They're very tall looking, aren't they?
That's only because they're close.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, we've no comparison to anything else there, so you can't really tell if they're tall or not.
I think those are cute though; they're really nice. I mean, I know a lot of people have come up with things like Ewok armies and stuff, but a Jawa army would be amazing. So, yeah, pirate aliens.
What's a trap?
I love those. Very cool. Especially because, I mean, one of the things everyone complained about with Star Wars Legion to begin with was that there wasn't enough aliens in the Rebels packs.
Oh, yeah.
And then they kind of built on that didn't they, with the specialists and things? But you could use these to kind of bulk things out a little bit.
Yeah, and the Trooper expansion packs more or less were nothing but aliens.
Yeah.
So it was a good way of doing it. Yeah, some cracking stuff in there.
Go back to the Star Wars page.
Back to the Star Wars page.
Yeah.
Where am I?
What was that other weird thing? There's like all the bikes. What are they doing?
I think they're
it's the dust kicking up underneath them. Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. I'd have to cut that off.
I assume you just wouldn't print it. Stick on the flag stand.
I'd imagine that's a separate part.
I love that the guy in the middle is just an orc who's just gone.
It's the Warcraft 3 orc.
Yes.
It's just the Warcraft 3 orc.
It is.
Which makes perfect sense because let's face it, when they came to do the alien scenes in the cantina, it was whatever they had lying around, which is why there's a devil and a wolf man, and a fat child. What have you got here, Elstree? What have you been filming? Done Hammer Horror, you say? Excellent. You've got some sort of ant? Magical. Put that in the bar, drinking some blue milk. It's all good in the hood. But interesting stuff then. So Patreon, My Mini Factory.
Yep, and their own website,
And their own website as well. Snipers and ghillie suits.
You too can make the thing from the swamp.
Fear the ghillie suited snipers.
Yeah.
There you go. Cracking an extensive range in the historics as well, with just the little sort of fantasy and sci-fi pitter-patter up the sides as well, which is very cool.
Very cool. Yes.
I appreciate all of this and so much more. So much.
I did a good job. I get to live again.
You get to live for another week.
Did you win one of our prizes? Find out on our prize claim center over at ontabletop.com. Here we list all our previous prizes and those who have won. If you see your username, fill out the form to claim your prize. All prizes must be claimed within 30 days.
So, time to wrap up the show. And we'll be running it out, as always, with a couple of Kickstarters. We've already, I suppose, alluded to this one. Well, we haven't alluded to it. We showed you big stonking pictures right at the start, so we'll finish off with more stonking big pictures right at the end of Warcrow Adventures. So Corvus Belli's Dungeon Crawler, which is an app-based dungeon crawler. So no rulebook in this. It's all done via an app on either your phone or a tablet or a laptop-y thing, and that contains everything when you come to play, which does lead me to one unusual question, because it tells you how to set up the game. It tells you how to play the game. When you interact with things, the app will tell you, what happens because of it, and the storyline can branch or stop because of your failures or successes in your roles and the order in which you do things. But it's still listed as 2 to 4 players. But it's an AI organizes the monsters, so I'm fairly certain you can play this solo if you want, and just
two-hand it with two heroes or something.
Yeah.
I think someone actually raised that in the comments, and they just said, "I'll just play as 2 heroes," kind of thing. So
so because there's nothing stopping you playing this solo, because the monster side, the dungeon essentially is run by the app, and it has an AI set of sort of organization with the monsters as well, which changes over time. So it's not every turn isn't always the same function for the monster that's attacking you. The app will change things up slightly. So you can't always go, if I stay at the back, I won't get hit. Solo play is definitely a possibility.
That's what I really liked about the Journeys in Middle-earth game. So I've been playing that for a little bit, and that's app-assisted. And that does a similar thing with the way that it sort of deals a lot of the background stuff and kind of just lets you play the game, which I think is quite nice, and sort of does all the bookkeeping for you. But anyway, sorry.
So if you haven't seen any of the videos that I did with it's a new fantasy world. There's a place called Lindworm, and a mist rolled in and sort of covered up a big chunk of a continent and island, and then pulled back. Nobody knows where it came from, and nobody knows why it pulled back, but in the mist, strange things lurk, and people have started to go to explore this simply to see what sort of nonsense is on that island that can be exploited by the various factions and territories. So everything that happens in this dungeon crawler is sort of a band of adventurers drawn together and sent out on essentially missions for guilds and other people to try and explore and find out what's happening and uncover the story of the island and what's going on with it. So it's available as 2 pledges. Core pledge gives you everything you need to play. all the core missions, everything you need dice-wise and miniature-wise for the husks. But then
the core pledge would be the one that you guys can win if you comment on our videos about this and also back the Kickstarter. Yeah. So if you back the Kickstarter, you have the chance of winning the core pledge.
Yeah. And the Platinum Pledge is the same again, but with the Death Claws of Dream expansion, which adds a new race of tiny gribbly creatures, which are just the
goblins,
cutest little piranha goblins you've ever seen in your life. If you happen to be a platinum pledger, and you win the core set, you'll get the core set value refunded off that, so you'll just be paying for the expansion. But they've been going through stretch goals, which are a mix of the usual sort of money/time/social media goals as well. So little daily unlocks have been cropping up, including a new, I suppose, expansion campaign with the Change of Dread, because there's a sort of it's a mystery that you're trying to solve, and so when you're in your town and various things happen, then they take you in new and interesting ways, and also uncover sort of other bits and pieces that you can investigate within the actual town as well, because the app keeps tabs on what your characters are up to and what they're like and who likes them in town. So maybe the blacksmith doesn't like you, so your armor and weapons are going to cost a bit more to repair.
Oh, that's cool.
Or the tattoo artist really likes you. So so there's like some semi-mythical and magical effects and cures and bits and pieces that you find that you're told, you find a pendant, maybe bring it back to the blacksmith or the alchemist, and they may know more. And depending on how you fit with them, whether you're sort of faction aligned or whether they think you're a creepy evil person, they may or may not be willing to help for more or less cash money. So that it takes the role of the umpire, and the GM does all the bookkeeping style of thing for that.
Yeah. One of the things I was wondering, because can you give us like a brief idea of like the kind of the gameplay elements? Because you were saying that it actually is quite easy to get your head around, sort of mechanics wise and stuff. Yeah.
So you can see there a board for Zoka, who's a little dwarf tank. You have a set of stats, so like your agility, your brawn, your health, that sort of thing. And then you also have these action slots on the right hand side of the card. And when you're playing, you allocate essentially your energy into an action slot, and they allow you to do additional things like sidesteps and moves. And sometimes you might be doing actions you don't need to do to complete the bar that allows you then to do an attack. Sometimes you might want to go for other things that are easier to achieve. So the top one, you require 3 energy cubes in there, and it lets you like attack and move. Later on, you just have one, which will then allow you to do your action after only one. But the reason that's so cheap is it moves you in the initiative tracker, because the initiative tracker, I'm going to have to scroll up. The initiative tracker is a wheel that goes from 1 to 10, and it starts off where you put everybody's token down, and the order you go down is the order you activate in top to bottom. So
that's neat. I like that.
So if all 4 of you activate on a 4, you would then go, okay, who wants to activate first? The tank will activate first, and then our caster will activate last, and blah, blah, blah. But then once you do your action, you then move an initiative point value around the tracker. So maybe your attack is initiative 3 and you go 1, 2, 3, you're now activating again on 7. But if somebody else comes and activates on 7, they'll land on top of you. So you are constantly alternating and flipping. You might you might have an ability that
feels
moves
very
you
dynamic.
1 point, or you might, backwards, and another one moves you 4 points or 10 points. The monsters use the same initiative track, and sometimes you're told to put encounter or event tokens on the track at a specific point. So as you're fighting and playing, and then you hit that point, then the game will go, okay, that needs to be resolved because you're on turn 10 and this has happened. Something else has turned up. Something's run away. Something's become tougher. So while there is options within your game turn as to who activates when, once the actual initiative starts moving, then it becomes sort of mechanically set. So you have to be very clued into where you're going to act and how you're going to act, because the actions that you and your troop take will change when you're next able to interact with the game. Yeah. So that's the combat phase itself is not going to say dense, but the combat phase has got a lot going on because you've got abilities that you can sort of charge up or effects that will, if you're the first person in the initiative step, then you get to do this and you'll get bonuses. So it's, card and dice mechanics, and some of them are reset every phase, or some of them are reset on certain specifics. Like if you're the elf ranger and you're far away, then you get little bonuses to being able to do like snipey stealth shots and stuff on crits. So all of that's woven into it. But when you're not in a fight, a lot of time in dungeon crawlers, what happens is you're going, okay, well, there's nothing around to kill. I move 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You move 3, 1, 2, 3. And it's very slow and drawn out. When you're not in a combat phase, when you're just in an exploration phase, you can move whole tiles at a time and into the adjacent tile, which means that you're not bogged down and very slow moving when nothing's happening. So you can explore as quickly as you want and catch up with the party when the party's starting to get away. But then if you turn around and you're actually getting into combat, then you've got the nitty gritty, and the movement within the actual square you're in becomes very important.
I like that.
Yeah.
It zeroes down into more detail when it needs to.
Yes, and the rest of the time you can play catch up to your heart's content.
I also like the idea of someone lagging behind and just doing what they want, and then can quickly come running.
Yeah, but once a combat phase is kicked off, you can, if you're far enough away, you can move to the adjacent tile, but you can't move all the way into the combat. So if you're one tile behind, you can still catch up for combat. If you're 2 tiles behind, you can catch up that you'll be able to get involved in the next phase, or if you're ranged, you might be able to get involved in that phase depending on line of sight.
Which in itself is realistic. If I'm lagging that far behind, fucking be straight into combat.
Exactly. Yeah. But it means you don't have to worry about somebody, there's something that is at the far end of that corridor and you're going, well, if I go there and look at it now, then it's going to take me turns to catch up on you. Or the dwarf never doing that, because in most dungeon crawlers, if a dwarf's moving 3 and an elf moves 5, then the elf scouts everything and the dwarf just walks forward, because they can't turn around. If they turn around, they're never getting anywhere. Yeah. That mitigates that. You can play around. The enemies then, so the husks, the marked, all of these weird and wacky body horror monsters are the main sort of creatures you'll meet in the first campaign. We actually have some extra pictures of these so you can see them in all shiny glory. And these are whatever's happened in the mist. It's not just a mist is corrupting things. There's a level of creep in there, where the top level of creep are very sentient and have a plan, and they're doing these things for reasons known to themselves. And then other things are just essentially reanimated bits of limbs. There's a lot of flesh shaping going on. The Cripplik, who has been nicknamed Lola, is a delightful creature that's just a mouth with a massive tentacle-like tails that end with sharp spiky bits. So it leans very much into the sort of the mythos-esque, strange, non-functioning monsters, if that makes sense. You're moving away from it has to have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head with eyes, into it can be whatever it wants, because it's a creepy, weird tar mist monster that's come out of nowhere.
This is the thing I was saying earlier about the way that it's got kind of like a Corvus Belli twist on things. It's not just sort of your standard fantasy. No. They've done something really odd and different and unique with it. So
really, there's quattros on the side of that. Well, in your mind. But yeah, I think odd is fairly good way. It is not. While it is a standard fantasy, it's not a standard generic fantasy. It really lent into certain aspects and directions within the game world to sort of explore the weirdness that they want to. So they're all terrifyingly awesome. Thankfully, we didn't meet some of these, because I imagine some of them would just be absolutely terrifying. But as you can see, a whole slew of I know they have a name.
Yaldabaoth, is that what it is?
Yeah, I think that may be.
The Yaldabaoth, yeah.
That would be why I can't remember it, because there's no way that one's sticking in my head. But yeah, various levels of evil and creeping insanity are in the sort of the core setup. And then obviously all the cards and bits and bobs. And if you explore a chest, you can find stuff, and the app will go, you find this, you find that. So because it's doing the bookkeeping, it saves you from, I'm not saying people would, but flicking ahead to see, is it worth my while attempting to pick the lock on that chest? What's in that chest? Oh, it's just got some bandages. I'm not opening that.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to be in it until you've opened it. And if you choose not to open it, then good luck on your adventure. You've moved on. It's gone now. And so be it. You're not going to see how it pans out. It's not for you. So the game itself is absolutely stonking as far as the world they've built up and the mechanics behind it. Obviously, they're opening up a whole slew of new miniatures that you can lay your hands on for the likes of heroes. So we've got people like the talentless bard with his birds of attack. That's not my description. I was told that he's not a very good bard.
True, yeah.
Can't carry a note in a bucket. And then this, I suppose, reanimated statue.
That's cool too. I mean, I'm taken back by that one because I didn't recognize it from all the other characters.
Yeah, so not sure if it's another race or if it's like a spirit of a race that's currently there inhabiting a statue. Whatever it is, it's decided that the best way is to get stuck in there and roll all face.
As I like Warforged in D&D, that is totally my bag.
If you're looking to get into this though quickly, we do have how to play videos that have been going out.
So we've got unboxings, we've got everything.
We've got a how to play video, and then we have an actual let's play. And Corvus Belli also produced their own short version of a how to play using their really cool animated.
Yeah, it doesn't have my narration on it though. I'm just saying these are the red caps,
the gobbers.
So this is from the expansion, and they are like little tiny goblin land piranhas,
led by Noada, who's not at all related to the Hellboy version.
No. Well, anybody who knows anything about Irish myth will have spotted that most of the names of things have come screaming out of Irish myth and legend, and in some cases just Gaelic. So Noada Silverhand is.
I really hope that Noada is one of those villains that you're going to fight in the campaign, and you're actually going to be able to like turn him to your side, and he becomes like a hero or something. I think that would be amazing.
Stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened.
Mainly because the model looks amazingly badass.
So. There is a whole host more. There's myself and sat down for, I want to say, an hour, which was quick for me, to talk about the world and some of the characters and stuff. So there's an awful lot going on beyond Hawthorne Point. And this is going to be the first, like we said, the first introduction to this world for an upcoming war game as well, further down the line. So all of the miniatures in here will be compatible with that war game whenever it appears.
Do you know what's cool about that, though? This does help flesh out the world. So when the wargame appears, the world's already fleshed out, and you've got a good understanding of what's going on.
Already the factions, the nations,
rather than just being presented 2 armies or 3 armies or whatever it is and say fight, and you're like, well, why are we fighting?
Yeah.
This already sets the scene.
You're fighting because the Stain is creepily resurrecting bodies, or somebody is sticking bodies parts together with the living Stain.
And it does it. And it does in an adventure way. Like, it sets the scene by going on an adventure rather than just sitting reading fluff in a book, which is cool.
Yeah. My narration is not going to be available for everyone.
I will also point out for a lot of people, because plenty of folks were asking about, well, you can see it there actually, the material for the models and the scales and stuff. So it's kind of like 32, 35-ish, but like characters are a little bit bigger and more like evocative and that kind of thing. And it's all high quality PVC plastic, as they said. So it'll be what you've seen for some Aristea stuff and things like that. So
it's if you're already familiar with Corvus Belli stuff for Aristea or Infinity, then that sort of scaling.
And they have the rules there to download.
Yep, rules are download. There's also a tabletop sim version as well, so you can go check that out.
Yeah.
So,
there are, I want to say 12, so 11 days left.
11 days left,
already funded, and plenty of videos kicking around on the website if you're interested. And if you are a backer, you've also a chance to win your core pledge as well.
Make sure you comment on our videos over on YouTube, or on tabletop.com. Not stored on tabletop.com, on our website. There's no videos on the store. So.
Yes, just to clarify, you have the chance to, if you're a backer, you have the chance to win your core pledge. So if you've done the core pledge plus something else, you can win the core pledge and only have to pay for the other bits that you want. Mm-hmm. And to do that, obviously need to be a backer, and then you have to drop a comment in either under videos on YouTube here or over on Tabletop, and then we will choose a winner. And hey presto, you get your core pledge for free.
Bingo bongo, as the man says. We have one last Kickstarter. It's a very quick one. Yes. And this comes from Westfalia. It's called The Heroes, or Ben? No, not going to try that.
I'm going to say it as if this was English, Tipoi, but it's not that at all, probably.
I've absolutely no idea.
What is that character?
Oh, we'll get to that character in a minute. So the heroes come courtesy of a young sculptor from Ukraine called Roman, who a while ago just reached out to Westfalia and Cavi went, "You need to hire me." And from that cheeky message, Cavi went, "All right, then do like a little dungeon crawling unit for us." So he started working on some miniatures, and then all hell broke loose in February. So this is a very, very small little hero pack plus a monster. Roman's already been paid for it, but he's going to keep the rights for reproduction, and any subsequent sales, he'll get a cut of the profits. I think 35% of that to help him out in these trying times. But what we have are 4 fantasy characters in a sort of Slavic mythological style. So the dwarf, a pair of elves, and a human, who are all based on that sort of historic fantasy look for the region, which means you get to see elves looking a bit more brutal,
a bit more Cossacky.
Yeah, a bit more Cossacky. An elf maiden with a sickle out collecting stuff. So I told you there's always 2 types of elves: feral elves and hoity-toity elves. These are the feral types. Roman, the experienced dungeoneer, as the paladin, right? Paladin or cleric. And so when they were putting this together, and obviously they sort of had to ramp it up in a relatively short time, because they hadn't planned on doing this until next year. Boris, who is the main sculptor for Westfalia, added in Boris as a henchman from a neighboring country. He's always drunk. I hear you, Boris. And then the tank, the elite of the Dark Army that's attacking hulking creatures, massive weapons, the cowards that retreat when met with stiff resistance. Make of that what you will. And
I wonder,
Boris's massive nightmare-like creature, which, by the way, I think is only 25 quid if you want to buy it separately. Because
I think more of those are going to be available next year as well, from what I was reading.
There's another set of miniatures very similar to this in sculpt. Yeah, I may have gone ahead and went in and backed it anyway.
We can see that. Yeah.
Don't worry about that. Ignore that. Anyway, there's also a little tiny thug, a little bonus minion that can pal around with the tank and chuck his big cartoon bomb and get ruffle stomped by the heroes in question as well, which is being thrown in as a freebie if they hit 15k. But beyond that, this isn't going to be a massive Kickstarter with loads of stretch goals. They're already very well funded. So thank you to anybody who's thrown in money, but you can pick them up individually if you don't want to get the full set. So if you're just after a balding dwarf with a very pointed Varangian helm there. Just saying, Lloyd. Just saying.
It's very Russ looking.
Very Russ looking. So you can pick them up all individually. $10 US, 12 Canadian, or substantially less in euros and pounds. £52 for them all. So you can go in and grab them. There you go, $25 for the tank, which is for nothing, which is why I added that one in twice. So I've got a pair. Because, monsters are better in pairs. I'm just saying it is.
Are they getting rolled into your Kings of War, are they?
I have no idea what like most of the stuff from Westfalia and Boris, I have no idea why I'm buying them, but I will find a reason to play them at some point. So there are obviously very, single figure pledge levels. There's also, if you just want to pledge some support because the money is going to Roman for this, and he's currently neck deep in Ukraine, so he'd appreciate any support. But otherwise, it's a really nice set of just fantasy dungeon adventurers, which are always good for a laugh. And it's great to see so many people have already jumped on and supported this. So, if you can't now, that's fine. They'll be available down the line anyway from Westfalia, and hopefully we'll see a lot more from Roman in the future as well, because he's obviously got a lot of talent there, and a cheeky streak a mile wide. He's a sculptor. There are 6 days left on the Heroes Kickstarter, so if you fancy some of that, you can grab those as well. And that wraps us up for another week, gentlemen. We shall return next Friday, but if that's too far away and you need more of us, then come over to OnTableTop on Sunday morning for the XLBS. Our Cult of Games members get a chance to listen to us wetter on for another couple of hours as they try and get out of bed, and we try and stay on focus. If you're not already a cultist, you can do so with a 30-day trial and see what you think, and poke around on the website and check out our other content. But until next time, have a great week of gaming. Bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.